Wow, I suppose we are almost live. Are we live? I think we're live now. So welcome everybody to the first ever Impact Festival, where we are showcasing some of Maliasili's incredible partners. We are here today. I am Rason Kantai-Duff.
I'm Wanjiko Kinuthia.
And Wanjiko heads up our partner communications work. I head up our amplifying work and our partner funding work. And it's really a pleasure to be doing this, to be spotlighting and showcasing some of Africa's most extraordinary conservation organizations. So we'd like to tell you a little bit about Maliasili before we turn the spotlight to all of the partners as everybody now starts to join. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being here. Some of you, I think, are joining us during and as you are celebrating the holy month of Ramadan. Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for our partners who are joining. It is maybe very early morning for you or afternoon or evening. Thank you for taking the time to do this. I'm very sure you will not be disappointed. You're going to be hearing a lot of our incredible partners' work. So just to tell you a little bit about Maliasili, we are an organization that supports local organizations across Africa and strengthens them in their work, catalyzes African conservation leaders, as well as helping to provide funding and influence opportunities to make sure that their profiles are elevated and they're able to have the impact on Africa's landscapes and wildlife and people's livelihoods, as you're going to hear. So all of this comes from a lot of rigorous partner selection. The people who you will hear from, are really the best in terms of the governance work they're doing, building rights, building benefits for people as they secure these landscapes and bring lots of species back from the brink, working with forest ecosystems, so much that you're going to hear today. So Wanjiku, as we hear about this, we're not just hearing the stories, we're hearing about impacts.
Yeah. And this is not going to be about our impact as Maliasili. It's going to be about our partners' impact, many of whom are here today. And we have 12 partners who are going to speak about the work they do, the achievements they're making on the ground. But as Rason said, our portfolio is bigger than this. We have about close to 50 partners across Africa. And one thing we were just chatting about before this Impact Festival started is that impact has become a buzzword in conservation, right, Rason?
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, we hear a lot about it, but often we don't really know what it means or what it's trying to get to. But what we really want to focus on today is really showcasing tangible results that our partners have achieved. And many of them here have translated their lifelong passions into really great work that's achieving all these great things. And so when we start this for the next 90 minutes, actually, it's great to bear in mind that this is all, the partners who are here who are achieving this and will continue to achieve. But before we get into hearing directly from them, we have an amazing video we would love for you to watch to give you a bit of context about who they are and where they work.
And what this festival is really all about. So yes, please do play the video.
Hi, my name is Pain Marco. I work with Ujamaa Community Resource Team as the director. We ensure communities are able to manage, govern, but ultimately benefit from land and natural resources.
I'm Dr. Andrew Stein, coming to you from the northern edge of the Okavango Delta. I'm the Executive Director of the Claus Conservancy.
My name is Naga Kanyange, Account Director of COMRED, coming to you from Mombasa. COMRED works with local communities and cities along the Indian Ocean to conserve marine life and to create strong, long-lasting livelihoods.
Hello from Madagascar. My name is Jimira Zavchalam. I am the president of TSIMOKA Association.
Cette année, le GERP célèbre ses 30 ans d'existence. Le GERP concentre entièrement sur la protection des lémuriens. Notre mission est d'augmenter la population des lémuriens.
Everyone, my name is Rahima Jaidi and I'm joining you from Tanzania. I am the Executive Director for MJUMITA. This is a community forest conservation effort of Tanzania.
Join you, Elizabeth Atieno, Assistant Administrator. TSAVO Trust is a not-for-profit organization located in TSAVO, Kenya. Our mission is to safeguard biodiversity and empower communities within the TSAVO ecosystem.
Greetings from the mountains of South Africa. I'm Nikki McLeod from Environmental and Rural Solutions.
Hi, my name is Tina and I'm the Executive Director of FANAMBY. We collaborate with local communities to build resilience in order to conserve the protected areas in Madagascar.
My name is Antonio Shibita as Executive Director of ACADIR Angola. ACADIR is a conservation and the community development organization.
Hello, I am Mohamed Kamuna, the Chief Executive Officer for Community Wildlife Management Areas Consortium, CWMAC. This is a national organization dedicated to community-owned wildlife management areas in Tanzania.
Hello, my name is Mo Angel Sumbiza and I'm the founder and the executive director of Wildlife Conservation Action, and we are based right here in Zimbabwe. As an organization, our vision is for human-wildlife coexistence to be local-led and community-driven for improved livelihoods and thriving wildlife populations.
Well, welcome back. I hope that you've all been watching keenly and enjoying it as much as we have. We are going to be using a lot of superlatives today. We're going to try our best to tone them down and vary them, but it is going to be very hard not to say how fantastic and inspiring and beautiful this is. I also want to say that, if you know anything about Maliasili and our partners, you will know that we like to balance the strategic with the intimate. And we're seeing that you are all here, you've watched this video, and you have all introduced yourselves in a kind of very straight way. I'm Reson, Maliasili, Nairobi, Kenya. And we'd now just like to see if you have some superlatives or just some reactions to the video. So please type in a one word of what you've thought as you've been introduced to some of our speakers for the day and the landscapes that they work in. Let's see what some of your reactions might be as just before we start to introduce all these speakers. Okay, incredible. Thanks, Akshay. You're kicking us off with the superlatives we've been using. Yes.
Outstanding.
Yes, feeling excited. We are feeling really excited too. Small organizations, big impact.
Amazing.
Interesting.
Enlightening.
Yeah.
That's a new one. We're going to add that to our vocabulary for the
Spectacular. Honestly, it's so impressive, the work that all these partners are doing. And I think something that we've heard Fred Nelson, our CEO, say many times is, you know, sometimes the work that is being done, the stories and the kind of impact that you're going to be hearing about is kind of normal to some of the partners who you're going to be hearing it from. They wouldn't even think this is something amazing that they're about to share with you. But we really want to spend some time seeing actually how amazing it is and what this impact really means. So we're going to kick you off today with one of Maliasili's earliest partners, the Ujamaa Community Research Team, resource team have been with Maliasili for many, many years. Thank you, Pine, for being here. Pine Marco is the Executive Director of UCRT. And this organization is one of Africa's leading indigenous land rights organizations. And a major focus of UCRT is to help communities gain rights to their land and resources. And in fact, you have helped secure over 1.7 million hectares of land for and with communities. So Pine, I think just to kick us off, we'd like to know from you, what does this land tenure security mean for pastoral and hunter-gatherer communities in northern Tanzania?
Thank you, Reson and the entire Maliasili team for organizing this incredible moment to share our diverse stories. So I might start by giving a bit of background of who I am and how I'm connected to the landscape we work in. So I come from one of our working landscape, and more specifically, Ngorongoro District, Loliondo Division. Most of you might have heard of this area. So during the colonial period, my ancestors agreed to move out of the Serengeti to Ngorongoro and Loliondo to make way for the Serengeti National Park. But in 2022, 1,500 square kilometers of the Loliondo grazing land was taken away in the name of conservation and turned into a game reserve. In reality, it's a hunting block for the UAE royal family. 70,000 people lost access to grass and other resources. People in Ngorongoro are being moved out as well. And currently, a discussion of over 15,500 square kilometers of community land is being proposed to be turned into a game reserve. Until 2011, the Hadzabe community, one of our target communities, lost 90% of their land to different interests. So the landscape we work in is surrounded by the most iconic wildlife sceneries, such as the Serengeti National Park, Ngorongoro Conservation Area, Manyara, Tarangire, several wildlife management areas. So UCRT came into existence to address the rate of land loss for our target communities. We particularly target to secure communally owned, managed, and used lands. These lands are connected and serve movement of people, wildlife, and livestock. We do this through securing governance and management, increasing benefits to strengthen livelihoods. To date, we have been able to support securing of over 3 million hectares of land through land use planning, and of it, 1.7 million hectares is titled and gazetted as either grazing lands or hunting and gathering for the Hadzabe and the Akia communities. These lands support over 400,000 people. Further, communities have been able to establish, but also closely monitor grazing patterns in grazing blocks. But at the same time, formal governing structures are established to work hand in hand with traditional structures. In terms of benefits, through carbon trade, communities to date have earned over $3 million, mainly going towards improving social services. Through community-based tourism to date, communities have earned over $700,000, but also through women social enterprises and VCOBAs, they have access to over $300,000 controlled, managed, and benefiting women. In total, apart from the key economic factor driving livelihood, which is livestock keeping or hunting and gathering for the hunter-gatherers communities, a total of over $4 million are earned by communities from sustainable ownership, management, and protection of land and natural resources. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Pine, for starting us off on, you've ended up talking about these economic impacts and this work, but you started us off on a very sobering note, and it's reminded us that the work that we are here to do it's fundamental and foundational when we're looking at governance, when you're looking at the kind of work that UCRT is doing to secure these land rights at a time where there is a rollback of so much of that is happening. We are so glad that we are so glad to be partners of yours as you do this work. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Pine. And we are now going to move from northern Tanzania to Botswana, where we are also going to focus on an organization that puts people at the center of conservation and also collaborates with them to find innovative solutions and approaches that promote human-wildlife coexistence, specifically human and big carnivore coexistence. Welcome, Andrew. Thank you for joining us. Andrew is the Executive Director of CLAWS, this organization in Botswana. And Andrew, we were curious to find out, it's great that while CLAWS remains focused on lion conservation, you've shifted your approach over the years. Please tell us how working more broadly on rangeland health and livestock production has helped CLAWS promote the coexistence of people and lions and large carnivores in Botswana.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share our story. Thank you, Maliasili, and all of those that have joined us. In 2013, frustrated subsistence farmers exterminated 50% of the local lion population through poisoning in retaliation to livestock losses along the northern Okavango. Of course, poison use is indiscriminate, so not only was it killing the targeted lions, but also endangered vultures and lots of other scavengers in the system. When we found out about this, we answered the call. We took a compassionate approach to engage communities through technology and tradition. Instead of trying to prosecute people for poison use, we realized that they must be desperate in order to use poison. So that was the approach we wanted to take, was a compassionate one. On the technology side, we started fitting lions with satellite trackers and asked farmers to name those lions in their local language to create a connection between them and the individual animals. When collared lions approach cattle posts or villages, residents receive real-time alerts via cell phone to encourage farmers to take preventative actions. Things like bringing their cattle into protective enclosures, lighting fires, even using noisemakers like vuvuzelas to try to encourage the lions to move off. These messages were formatted in the preference of the farmer. So either voice message or text in the language that they preferred, either English or Setswana. Also, we looked at traditional practices. We realized that the central issue to this conflict was unattended cattle. Historically, herd boys used to protect cattle from predators and brought cattle into areas that had seasonal grazing. But that no longer happens because many of those herd boys are in school, and many of the adults in the village see herding as a low status job. So we formed the first communal herd in Botswana. We formed an elected grazing committee within one of our partner villages and hired and trained herders in planned grazing, conflict mitigation, basic veterinary care for cattle. And farmers signed conservation agreements saying that they will not kill lions and they will help in this effort to restore rangelands and reverse overgrazing effects like erosion, desertification, and so forth in the system. The impacts that we've seen so far, first of all, we haven't had a single lion poisoned in the last 5 years, which is fantastic. We've signed up over 250 farmers to receive alerts within our Lion Alert system. We've dispersed over 30,000 alerts and reduced conflict by 50% with those farmers that take preventative action when they receive those alerts. Within our communal herding program, now we have 3 herds of totaling 600 cattle across 2 villages. And we practically eliminated lion conflict within those communal herds, not having any losses in the last several years. On top of this, farmers received nearly double the payout for their wildlife-friendly produced beef in local markets. So we're selling the beef actually directly to area lodges that are encouraging these farmers to take on these wildlife-friendly practices. So we're really excited and proud of the results that we've had so far. Thank you so much.
Yeah, those are great, impressive numbers, Andrew, and fantastic results. As a result of your approach, many of you might not know, but in Reson's past life, she was a lion conservationist.
I was, indeed.
And I'll just be curious to hear, what are your thoughts to Clause's approach and what they've been able to achieve?
It's really, it's fascinating, like the some of the things that are so similar to the work that I was involved in and have heard about as well from various other lion conservation partners in Kenya and in East Africa. There's like a lot of similarities, you know, the idea of naming the lions local names and making people, you know, see that and feel that ownership. But just hearing that you have the first communal herd, it's so different, but it's so critical and so important, this kind of work, and just seeing the benefits as they've grown. And not only that, but thank you, Andrew, for also just having all of these numbers of data that I'm sure has not been easy to collect to show the growing impact, the reducing lion conflict that's happening in the region. Like that's amazing. And please, if anybody else has comments, has questions, we'd really love to see them and hear them in the chat. So now we are going to be moving over to East Africa, back to the coast of Kenya. And we are going to be introducing the Coastal and Marine Resource Development Team, represented here by Nyaga, who is a co-director. And they are also, you know, going to be talking quite a bit about their livelihood approach. We're looking at moving into this very dramatically different landscape. We're now in seascapes, and COMRED works to help communities develop practices, practical solutions to better manage the marine environment in coastal Kenya. So Nyaga, I'd like to know, how are you helping local communities to improve the management of marine resources, and how are the livelihoods of people being impacted by this work?
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. To answer your question, our work is actually guided by 3 strategic goals that underpin our interventions and developed through a theory of change. Through conservation, communities are able to benefit from their own resources and also diversify their livelihoods. We do this through a number of interventions, recognizing that attitude change, and poverty reduction are key to improve resource management. Currently, we are working with 56 villages along the Kenya southern coast to support community-led collaborative marine management or co-management. So we help communities strengthen local beach management units or BMUs that collectively now cover 100,000 hectares or about 1,000 square kilometers of seascape. And within this area, we have managed to empower communities to protect their fishing grounds, and we have seen the reef or the fishery recover from about 18% to 20% within 1 year, and people are also benefiting. For example, Munje BMU octopus closure. This is where octopus is allowed to grow for some time without fishing. And that's what you call the closure. And why octopus? For those not familiar with octopus, octopus is fast growing and short-lived. On average, 18 months, and females die shortly after laying eggs, making it a good candidate for quick returns. The closure is about 40 hectares or about 1% of Munje fishing grounds. Towards the end of the last year, actually, 2023, after 4 months of closure, about 600 kilograms of octopus was harvested in just 3 days. And for only 3 hours per day, which is equivalent to about 1 full day of fishing. And through monitoring, we have observed a comeback of fishes that indicates good reef health. For example, triggerfishes. Concerning livelihoods, we are supporting a revolving credit fund with 814 members called Eco Credit. That is, get a loan as you conserve. Last year, I would like to share this story from one lady. When she got the loan, you get one loan and then get another one pay. She used the loan to buy food for home consumption, started a food business in the village, bought a freezer for juices she makes, and repaired a house. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, I am so inspired. I don't know, between Wanjiku and I don't know which one of us likes to go to the coast more, but as Kenyans, that's like a major pastime. And I'd like to say something about COMRED as we hear all of these incredible statistics, which is that I think I was inspired by COMRED before I even knew that COMRED existed. Because in the past few years of visiting the coast, there's actually a difference. When you visit these beaches, there's a dignity that people have now that their livelihoods are far more secure that I didn't see 5 years back. There are marine resources, if you like snorkeling or scuba diving, the kind of resources that you see down in the coast around Wasini and Sambweni. This is all due to COMRED's work. So I have experienced COMRED even before I knew COMRED existed. And now seeing that, hearing this 600 kilograms of this octopus catch in 3 days, like having done the closures, and for those of you who might not have heard about the article that featured COMRED in Monga Bay, you can just Google Monga Bay COMRED, you will find an article about this work and just going deeper into how extensive and how important it has been for the livelihoods of people, but also for restoring the fisheries at the coast where we both love visiting so much.
Yeah. Definitely. And from COMRED's very impressive work, we now move across the Indian Ocean to the island nation of Madagascar. As wildlife enthusiasts, what's the first animal you think of when you think of Madagascar?
I want to see in the chat if people will type it. Let's see.
Okay.
What animal do you think of? Lemurs.
Yeah, lemurs.
Lemurs.
Absolutely. And today we have the privilege of having an organization that has been at the forefront of helping Madagascar bring back critically endangered lemur species from the brink of extinction. And this organization known as GERP, I actually saw today, I think that, and Jonna, who's the founder, can tell us, I think GERP is celebrating 30 years of its existence, which is fantastic work. So Jonna, as I've mentioned, is the leading primatologist in Madagascar, who also is the founder and the president of GERP. And a fun fact that Reson and I just found out is that his work is so impressive that he has a picture on a postage stamp in Madagascar to honor his efforts. And so it's a huge privilege that I welcome Dr. Jonna to talk to us a bit about the work that they do as GERP, but also to let us know that given the tremendous threats to Madagascar's forests, which the endemic lemurs depend on for survival, how has GERP been able to reduce forest clearing and degradation in places where you work? And how has involving communities really contributed to this success? Welcome, Dr. Jonna.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate. First, I would like to express my deep appreciation on behalf of my team. I would like to thank Maliasili for all of your support, for all of your concern. Well, GERP is an association based in Madagascar. We managed 3 protected areas covering 5,000 hectares and communities surrounding them. There are 4,600 people living in the area. All of the 3 sites where GERP are working used to be subject of heavy logging and hunting of various animals. And those are the 2 main threats, the big threats. Marmiza and Manumbu are on the national road. Therefore, it was easy for the loggers to go. How has GERP reduced then those threats, like, as you said, the forest clearance and degradation and huntings in Marmiza and in Manumbu? From the beginning, we knew that this would be a long campaign, a difficult campaign, especially when people who live in those areas are extremely poor. And conservation is always difficult when people get little access to food, little access to healthcare, and little access to education. We also knew that if people are part of the problem, they must be part of the solution. And the first 2 years we started in Marmiza, for instance, was really a nightmare. We have to gain the trust of the local community. And by doing that, we helped the community to have legal land rights. And that was the key. That was really key. And at the same time, we worked with the local community in a spirit of collaboration, but not in a spirit of dependence. And that is really important. We built strong relationships with the local community. For instance, they do the patrolling of the forest, they work as a guide, and the permanent presence also is a key. We have provided various training on different farming, for example, fish farming, honey farming, poultry farming, different kinds of farming, and that helped them to improve the yields, for example, for the agricultures. We also organized a platform of gathering all of the different groups within the community, for example, the youth, the women, the elders, the king, and they decide what they want to do, but not GERP. So we just there to support them. And what are the impacts, the big impacts, the bold impacts? Well, the forest, we are able to reduce the loss of the forest by 90% in 5 years in Marmiza protected areas. Second, the red-billed lemurs population density tripled from 2010 to 2018 from 32 to 91 in kilometer square in Marmiza. And in Manumbu, Efas Manumbu Special Reserve in Southeast Madagascar, illegal logging violation dropped by 400% from 6.42 acres cleared in 2023 compared to 111.2 acres cleared in 2022. There was also reduced improvement of the livelihood of the community, and the bold impact is 0 for precious, which means no deforestation, no clearance, no hunting in Marmiza, and that was used by the Malagasy government today as a good success for the whole country in Madagascar. And I would say, if that works in Manum and Marmiza, why not to the rest of Madagascar? Thank you very much.
Wow, that is why you're on a postage stamp, Dr. Jonah, like that. Just hearing all of those statistics, that is zero deforestation, zero. Wow.
Yeah, no, just tremendous impact, Dr. Jonah. And thank you for what you're doing, your approach so clearly, and also showing the results that you're achieving. We are going to scout now, but head northwards to Orun's forest, where another of our partners, TSIMOKA, is also helping to reduce forest loss, which is contributing to lemur population growth. Welcome, Jimmy from TSIMOKA. Very good to see you here. Jimmy, our question for you is, based on the success of your agroforestry efforts, TSIMOKA is beginning to support other protected area managers in implementing similar projects. What should you say are the enabling conditions required for this to succeed in other places? Welcome, Jimmy. Sorry, Jimmy, you're on mute.
Yes, sorry. Hi, everyone. And thank you for this opportunity to share our impact and approaches. As you know, like in many countries in Africa and in the world, here in Madagascar, one of the main problems is that there is an overexploitation and destruction of natural resources, leading to a loss of biodiversity and its ecological functions, on which local communities depend. One of the causes of this destruction is the agriculture. Why? Because the majority of the population practices the activity as source of food and income. They clear the forest or their ecosystems to get product. And aware of this situation and the bad impact it can generate, TSIMOKA, which is a local organization, applying an innovative approach in Madagascar for the rehabilitation of ecological functions, has intervened at one protected area. It is called Orunji in the north of Madagascar, where a large part of the forest has gone because of this practice. Animals becomes very rare and water sources are dried up. For that, we have implemented activities for the management of the site. We have undertaken activities for the restoration of this dry forest, following a protocol developed by ourselves. And also, we have supported farmers for the implementation of dynamic agroforestry, which is a very lucrative and productive agricultural approach, but less destructive. After that, what's happened? The loss of the forest cover has been significantly reduced, even almost stopped. And about the lemur, the population of lemur coronatus has increased, and even it has doubled over the last 10 years. And economically, especially about the life of the farmers. There was a clear increase of their revenue with an average of $50 of increase per person per month. And about the soil and the ecosystem, qualitative data showed much higher water retention in the soils, enabling good production for the farmers and also enabling people around the site to have their right. And we had those impacts through the implementation of ecological restoration and dynamic agroforestry with a good monitoring to ensure the success of the action. And note that those approaches are tested and adapted on the local context of the site by ourselves. As our mission is to accelerate restoration of ecological functions in Madagascar in order to improve livelihoods of the community. So to achieve our goal, we need to keep those conditions in the place we are going to scale up our intervention. That is practice of dynamic agroforestry, undertake adapted ecological restoration activities, and implement a good monitoring strategy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. And it's great to see that you realize your model works and now you're scaling across the country where it's desperately needed to reverse forest loss, but also help with endangered species conservation and management. So kudos to you.
Yeah, it's so nice to hear the two, hearing GERP, hearing CIMOKA, and, it's working towards the same thing in very different and innovative ways. And it's building off of these different approaches, and they're both having such important impacts. And yeah, thank you so, so much, Jimmy, for that. So we are going to stay.
You're welcome.
We're going to keep talking about forests, and I got a very interesting fact from Wanjiku earlier today, which I can't believe I didn't know, which is that Tanzania has the third largest forest cover in Africa. I can't believe I didn't know this. Like, I'm very embarrassed. Close to half of the country is covered in forest. It's of course, a lot of it is Miombo woodland, and this makes Tanzania's forest vital, not just for East Africa, but for the whole continent, for the carbon sinks that they provide for the entire world. I am still very staggered by this. So, we've just heard about these two forests, groups that are working in forests, and we're going to hear from a third one now in Tanzania. And this is Mtandao wa Jamii wa Usimamizi wa Misitu Tanzania, which is MJUMITA. And MJUMITA is one of Africa's largest networks for community forest organizations. MJUMITA has been helping communities to restore and to secure their rights for forest resources and identify ways to benefit from sustainable management practices. And we're joined today by the executive director, Rahima, who is a dynamic and incredible individual. I want to know, Rahima, you have supported more than 2,400 customary land rights certificates as MJUMITA. What does that mean for communities and for their forests?
Thank you, Reso. Thank you, Wanjiku. And thank you, Maliasili, for organizing this very interesting event. First of all, I'd like to say that we know that I'll focus on women only because this is the group that we know has been marginalized for a very long time when it comes to land rights. So when it comes to issuing the certificate of the customer certificate of land rights, it gives them more strength. It's like it's a land security. They can use that certificate for various reasons. For example, now we have cases where we supported the communities. They can access credits or soft loans based on those certificates of land occupancy. And it gives them power. Now women are empowered. They can take care of the families because they have this confidence that they can invest in their land. Invest in a sense that they can use the land, the certificate, the title deeds, I can say, to secure loans and invest in more sustainable agriculture practices. That means they can yield more products, more crops compared to the other years. But again, they can use that certificate to access loans from microfinances and start other kind of businesses that are more friendly to the environment. For example, we have cases where women are using the title deeds to get loans to establish small enterprises, small businesses like small kiosk, like local food vendors. So it's a number of benefits that the communities are now experiencing because of the title deeds. And one thing that is very interesting that really caught even our attention is that in some cases, even the men are willing now to have their names, like the name of the wife and the name of the husband in the same title deed. And this is because they all understand that when something comes into pass, sorry, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Rahima. Keep going.
Yeah, I heard background. Yeah, so I was talking about a very interesting scenario where the husbands are now willing to put both their names in the title deed, like his name and the wife's name, because they are aware that when situation comes to worse, maybe the husband passes, the wife, he does not want the wife and the kids to be like chased out of the land. So this is a very positive outcome for us. And now, how do we link this with forest management? When people have title deeds, they're confident to invest in other businesses, small kiosks, food vendors, so that they refrain from going in the forest to cut for timber or for illegal charcoal because they have other avenue for revenue generation. So this is a point where we want to see that every village we have communities who have access to the title deeds. So, and this is our goal. We want to move around and help communities, especially the women and the youth. Youth are coming up so much, like they're now awake that they want these title deeds so they can have businesses. They can use them for various interventions. So there's a very good link between having the title deeds and controlling how the forest resources are being used. Thank you. Over to you, Reso.
Thank you so much, Rahima. You're making my heart sing, just connecting forests to women, looking at these title deeds and how these livelihoods have changed, and that has really reduced deforestation and allowing these forests that are such important carbon sinks for this continent and for the world to thrive. And at the same time, you're hearing men who are making sure that their wives are now on these title deeds. Like, there has been such erasure of women in many of our patriarchal societies. So I don't think when this started, I thought that we were going to hear something so powerful about women during Women's History Month. Like, this is, it's really powerful and inspiring. Thank you, Rahima. And thank you for the scale that you're doing this on, having all of these different groups that you're working with. Great. Okay. I don't know how you're all feeling, but I am feeling, and I think we both are feeling really inspired, really charged and energized. I'm sure some of you would like a little bit of a break. So we're going to take a break. But as we're taking this break, we'd like you to stick around because there's something special that's going to be happening. So as you maybe grab your tea or coffee, we have a very special song for you. It's a never heard before song. It was literally recorded for this very Impact Festival. So we are all very special and privileged to be hearing a song that is about conservation and about all of this work and all of this impact that you're hearing. And it is done by Feliciano dos Santos, who is familiar to many of you. If you came to the African Community Conservation Forum last year in September, you would have met him, but you would have not heard this song because it literally was recorded just a few weeks ago. Feliciano is a Goldman Prize winner. He is a member of the ACLN, the African Conservation Leadership Network, and he's a member of one of Maliasili's Mozambican partners, Regecom. He is part of that group that we also work with. So hold on to your hats, maybe get up. I'm sure Wanjiku and I are gonna be dancing around the Maliasili office as this song plays. So here we go.
Africa, 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 unidos pela ação e amor, unidos pela ação e amor, a conservação e o caminho, a conservação e o caminho.
A natureza é preciosa, é nosso dever preservar. Dos elefantes majestosos ao leão que ruge sem terror.
Musalileia mãe, musalileia mãe, ifetilipa o fulo, zinyama zikufuna o fulo, zomela zikufuna o fulo. Musalileia mãe, musalileia mãe, zikulonse likufuna o fulo, atuonse akufuna o fulo.
Cada criatura é preciosa, cada objeto é valioso. Que o amor pela natureza reine em nossos corações.
África, 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 unidos pela ação e amor, unidos pela ação e amor, a conservação e o caminho, a conservação e o caminho. África, 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 unidos pela ação e amor, unidos pela ação e amor, a conservação e o caminho, a conservação e o caminho.
Welcome back, everyone. We hope you've enjoyed the song, the really beautiful melody.
We're still dancing
together. Actually, Rason is still dancing, and she has some news for you.
Oh my gosh, no.
She has promised that she's going to collaborate with Feliciano and release the next song that we will play at the next Impact Festival. So please do not miss.
Okay, you have to come to the next. If you all promise to come to the next Impact Festival, I promise I will find Feliciano and we will do this song.
A collabo.
Yes.
Conservation collabo. All right, back to the partners and back to Impact. We are now taking you to a place that's not too far away from where Rason and I are right now, to the staggering TSAVO ecosystem in Kenya, which is home to plenty of high-value species, including 40% of Kenya's elephants and 18% of our country's critically endangered black rhinos. TSAVO Trust was founded about a decade ago with the aim of being the anchor organization for community conservation efforts in this really important ecosystem. Today we have Liz from TSAVO Trust. Welcome, Liz. Our question for you is, we know that TSAVO Trust has played a vital role in protecting wildlife and biodiversity across the TSAVO ecosystem, one of Kenya's largest. And actually, Rason just let me know that it's the size of Belgium. Yes, it's 4.2 million hectares, which is massive. But more recently, TSAVO Trust has now turned from just purely focusing on species and ecosystems to also looking at local communities and community conservation in the area. So Liz, please tell us why this approach and what has it helped the organization achieve? Karibu, welcome.
Thank you, Wanjiku and Riso, together the Maliasili team. So TSAVO Trust is actively contributing to the global biodiversity framework targets, which aim for 30% of our country's landmass to be dedicated to conservation by 2030. In pursuit of this goal, TSAVO Trust has played a pivotal role in supporting the establishment and stewardship of 2 community conservancies within the TSAVO conservation area, which are Kamungi Conservancy, that is to the northern boundary of TSAVO West National Park, and Shirango Community Conservancy, which is to the southern boundary of TSAVO East National Park. Here in TSAVO, we are employing a holistic approach known as the integrated conservancy model, which ensures a mutual beneficial solution for both the local communities and wildlife conservation efforts. Through this approach, it has garnered widespread community support and engagement with over 5,500 individuals in Kamungi and Shirango Community Conservancy, actively participating and taking ownership of the conservation efforts. Through actively involvement, the local communities are reaping various benefits from wildlife conservation initiatives. They are also consequently creating more space for wildlife conservation. Now, the key improvements in community livelihoods include, number one, access to clean and safe water, mitigation of human-wildlife conflicts through our tailored measures, enhancement of food security through our permaculture and climate-smart agricultural practices, implementation of climate-oriented activities, including training permaculture and climate-smart agriculture for over 200 households within the Kamungi and Shirango Community Conservancy. We have also provided energy-efficient cooking stoves and adoption of solar home solutions by the local communities. In fact, there is also infrastructural development such as schools and health centers, both within and surrounding the two conservancies. And in fact, additionally, there's implementation of revenue generating initiatives such as the establishment of ecotourism facility. Beyond this, there is employment opportunities within the community conservancy model. Overall, TSAVO Trust conservation efforts have yielded significant achievements. Number one, expansion of land under conservation. Number two, there is a remarkable 80% reduction in human-wildlife conflict within the Kamungi Conservancy. Additionally, there is subsistence decline in trophy poaching with a reduction of over 70% in the last 10 years. And to add on to that, there is promotion of coexistence between the local communities and the wildlife, as well as establishment of these two community conservancy has created a crucial conservation buffer to the protected areas. Through our concerted efforts at TSAVO Trust, we are making tangible strides towards fulfilling our conservation targets while fostering sustainable coexistence between communities and wildlife in the TSAVO landscape. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. And what great feedback to hear about the reduction in human-wildlife conflict cases, the reduction of trophy poaching, and also the benefits that the communities are getting from conservation. One thing that we forgot to mention is TSAVO is one of the few places in the world where you can see elephants that are so big and with tusks so massive that they almost touch the ground. And these are called tuskers. So if you ever visit Kenya and you have the tusker bear, that's where it comes from.
The great tuskers are the big tuskers that have 100 pounds a side, and they are literally owned, like, I think that's, I'd say 70%, well, maybe Liz can tell us, are found in South.
Yeah.
So keeping them alive, keeping their landscapes connected is connected to people. Yeah. Now, before we jump into the next partner, I just want to say that in Maliasili, we're all about inclusion, and we realize that people are probably feeling quite excluded at the moment because many of you have comments in the chat, and where we as the hosts and panelists are seeing them because you are writing them directly to us as hosts and panelists. So please, if you've got a comment there, just check to see if you've selected either hosts and panelists, and make sure you copy and paste it and make it to everyone so that everybody can see your comments, so that we are inclusive. We make sure that everybody is enjoying and really benefiting from all that you're saying and all the questions. There've been lots of questions, good comments. Please keep those coming. Okay, thank you so much, Liz, and thank you for inspiring us with that. Now we're gonna go down south to South Africa, and we are excited to introduce our first ever South African partner. This is the Environment and Rural Solutions team, which is represented by the founder, Nikki and ERS promotes landscape restoration for thriving rural livelihoods in an area spanning multiple provinces in South Africa. So Nikki, you have done this work, which I know we're going to be blown away by, and you focused a lot of your work on supporting communities to develop conservation agreements. So what we'd really like to know is, how have these agreements changed the way communities use this land, and how has increasing the revenue generated by livestock, which is a staggering 2.2 million over the past decade, how has that helped to restore land in the area?
Thanks, Wanjiku, and greetings to everyone from the almost southern tip of the continent. I'm not sure if you mentioned that our funny little acronym ERS stands for Environmental and Rural Solutions, and that's kind of what we're about. We're very rural. And just in answer to your question, we try and build on the Great Conservation Agreement framework that Andrew from Claus outlined. But we're in a landscape that doesn't have the big iconic game. We don't have the tuskers and the lions and the other sometimes trouble causes that Andrew mentioned. But we do have very rich montane endemic biodiversity, which is under threat. We've got quite a few red darter species in the mountains. And importantly, these mountains also act as a strategic water source area, supporting more than 2 million people downstream. So our regenerative grazing approach goes kind of beyond cattle and the amazing 2.2 million that you mentioned, which if you turn that into job equivalent, it would employ 1,500 people as farmers at home, which reduces urban migration from rural areas. And what we are learning is that, you mentioned the word inclusivity just now. You know, South Africa has a turbulent past of excluding certain groups and people becoming very marginalized and not part of their own futures. But what we've done is we've listened and learned through our village-based eco-champs. So these young people who are showing us that they can be the agents of change, and basically they bring back and take out their liaison ambassador in a way. And we've learned so much from them, which has allowed us to take the conservation agreement framework to a much wider and deeper reach to other rangeland users rather than just large livestock owners, you know, the cattle guys, who are often the elite. The word cattle barons is not there for nothing. So we now have women who are much more included. They're the thatch collectors and largely the small stock owners. You know, fleece is an important commodity. The youth, so many of the youth are migrating to urban areas because they don't see a future in rural areas, and agriculture actually can become a viable career for many of them. And very importantly, we have a growing membership base of traditional healers who are the custodians of the medicinal plants in this area that has such rich endemic biodiversity. Interestingly, the other day we were vaccinating a bunch of small stock, and the goats and the sheep are always mixed together. And I was saying to one of the eco-champs, why are you not vaccinating the goats? And he said, but don't you know, the goats self-medicate, they eat joy, and so they deworm themselves. They don't need to be vaccinated, and it saves people money. But they're now struggling to find the plant because of fires and overharvesting, you know, the eternal endangered species syndrome. So this inclusivity approach of bringing people into those conservation agreements, which are renegotiated seasonally, has helped us to really start undoing that history of exclusion, and to reach, since we've been going since 2002, and ERS is not me, we're a team of 18 amazing people. I'm like the old furniture now. But we've been able to reach about 90,000 plus people with better livelihoods, and 40,000 of those all have better, safer, reliable water at World Health Organization standards. So managing these rangelands in a regenerative, inclusive manner has got a whole bunch of other benefits beyond cash for cattle, where people are seeing more water being regenerated through alien plant clearing. We've got a few charcoal businesses emerging for young people. And we're seeing that water can be protected. It doesn't have to be mega $1 million schemes with pipes and taps and pumps, but for $12 per person, people can have water for life. So we're seeing these other impacts just through regenerative rangeland approaches, which are inclusive. And even though we have 30 rangeland associations who've signed season after season, the depth and the representativity is so much greater now from traditional healers and youth and other livestock owners. So yeah, that's really our story. We're not the big game guys, but we have a whole lot of other benefits. Yeah, and I think one of the big things we do is restore hope and self-esteem with rural communities. So thanks for the opportunity. It's so inspiring to hear these other stories from you guys who do have the amazing animals in your landscapes. And we'd love you to come to the mountains sometimes and see what we have.
We would love to come to the mountains, Nikki. We're going to take you up on that. Just hearing about these connections, I am blown away. Just from the agreements, and you move from these large livestock owners, and you're looking at youth and women and traditional healers, and just that connection between the traditional healers and bringing back and restoring those traditional and medicinal plants that they need to carry on with their work. And then the youth not going, not leaving these areas and seeing that this is a viable place to live. It's profound. It's profound beyond just beyond the one thing that has triggered all of this work. So thank you so much, Nikki, for sharing that. And yes, we often say that we shouldn't always just have that focus on these large megafauna, because you know, this sort of work and the diversity of this work is what will stitch up our landscapes and is what is actually going to bring the restoration that's needed. And it's the diversity of approaches and innovation as well. Yeah. So you have highlighted that in just 3 minutes. Thank you. Okay, so we are now going to be moving a little away from the southern tip, and we're going to go back to Madagascar. And we are going to be introducing FANAMBY, and this is an organization that is also protecting forests and also using a different innovative approach from GERP and from CIMOKA. And they are using and working with one of the world's most valuable spices, and something that I'm sure many of you either have in your kitchens, or you have something that has it, or you have had it in the last maybe 1 month, which is vanilla. FANAMBY, whose name means embracing challenge in Malagasy, is one of the country's pioneering conservation organizations, working in 12 protected areas and helping resident communities generate income while protecting these areas. And we have Sandy joining us from FANAMBY. So Sandy, you focused most of your efforts on identifying and developing enterprises to inject capital into community conservation efforts. So over $500,000 in revenue went to communities in just the last year. That is astounding. How does helping farmers earn more income from vanilla support forest conservation efforts?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ressen, for the question. Thank you for the introduction. As you might already know, poverty usually drives deforestation. And in a vulnerable country like Madagascar, forest is the main source of livelihood for many people. And here, it's not just about collecting and harvesting food from the forest, it's more about clearing the forest to make place for farmlands. And at this rate, we have lost 80% of our forest covers over a century. But Madagascar is also a very favorable land for cash crops. And just like you said earlier, Madagascar is the largest exporter of vanilla in the world, and vanilla is the most expensive spice after saffron. The problem is most of the smallholder farmers still live in poverty, continuing the cycle of forest burning and clearing to provide for their families. And this is where FANAMBY intervenes. Our work is to collaborate with local communities to build resilience and preserve biodiversity. In the case that I mentioned earlier, we partnered with Missouri Botanical Garden, which is also another protected area manager, and we found a way to increase the farmers' revenue by building a resilient supply chain, linking large buyers with local communities and federating them into a social enterprise that we call Tambacha. And in 2023, we generated more than $500,000 of revenue for the communities. We supported and trained 3,000 farmers all of which have seen a significant improvement in their quality of life. As a result, they are more prosperous and resilient. The high income made from the vanilla production offered them an alternative to forest clearing. Today, there is no longer deforestation in the protected area that Missouri Botanical Garden is managing. But this is to say that increasing farmers' revenue is only one of the pillars that contribute to lowering the need for deforestation. And it really improves the conservation effort. But this is not the only place we are developing alternative livelihoods through social entrepreneurship. In fact, we take this approach to all of the protected areas we manage through tourism, rice production, fishing, and vegetable crops, all to build local community resilience. Today, we can no longer exclude local communities out of conservation. They have a part to make and responsibilities to take alongside the authorities, the government, and the protected area manager. But they cannot fully take ownership of that protection unless they are resilient themselves. And until they're ready, FANAMBY will be there with them. Thank you, and over to you, Ressa.
Thank you so much, Sandy. It's so exciting to hear that you start with vanilla, but then you're talking about all of these other things that you're doing with all of these communities around, from the vegetable farming, the fishing, the tourism, so many different approaches. But just zeroing in on the vanilla, I am very glad that every time I will have my vanilla ice cream or sip my vanilla tea or latte at some point. We will remember that that your work is contributing to this, bringing back these, making sure that deforestation is at an all-time low in so many of these areas. So yeah, it's exciting, and it brings it closer to home. So,
Thank you.
And I love the quote that you said right at the end, that today we can no longer exclude local communities from conservation. I think that's such a great summary of the conversation we're having today.
It is, and I'm just seeing that there's a comment.
Yeah.
Expert local and small organizations with contextualized approaches that deliver real conservation impact that is inclusive with those that are living, but were living there long before conservation was mainstreamed. Love it. Thank you, Pedro, and thank you for really highlighting the concept of decolonizing conservation, which, if you get me talking about it, I will talk for a long time, but I think each of these speakers are doing this very thing. Yeah.
Could not agree more. Away from Madagascar now and back to East Africa, back to Tanzania. We are going to now spotlight an organization that is helping to scale community-led wildlife management conservation across the country. This is known as the Community Wildlife Management Areas Consortium, which is a network organization that supports the growth and development of Tanzania's community wildlife management areas, more popularly known as WMAs. And these are often community designated and managed areas. We are joined today by Kamuna, who's the CEO of CWMAC, who is going to shed light on some of the work they're doing and how it's helping to catalyze community-led wildlife conservation in Tanzania. So Kamuna, 7% of Tanzania is under community conservation already, under WMAs. This number for a country that's absolutely vital, as we've been speaking to not only East Africa, but Africa and the world, is very impressive. But what does it really mean in practice?
Thank you so much, Ruson and Wanjiku, and generally, thank you so much, Maliasili team, for organizing this unique and first ever festival. So for us, CWMAC, having 7% of Tanzanian mainland being managed by a local community is something which we take not for granted. This is because, first of all, the location of this piece of land, they locate around or in the very critical area of our beautiful and important ecosystems. So it means now these wildlife management areas ensures the protect and safeguarding all ecosystems in Tanzania. You have mentioned 7%. This is a total of 22 full registered wildlife management areas, but we do have other 15 wildlife management areas that are in different stages of establishment. So we hope maybe after all being registered, the number will increase. And we are looking at people who are doing this critical or important work of managing this landscape. It's about 1.2 million people who are coming from 334 villages across Tanzania. So this number highlight not only how people are, accepting the concept of community-based natural resources, but it showed that people can sacrifice their land from other land use to conservation. So that is very important to us. And we have seen how these wildlife management areas are important in terms of economic point of view, because in the last 5 years, we have seen a revenue of a total of 12 million USD coming to these wildlife management areas from tourism business. So I think for us and for the local communities who are owning these and managing these wildlife areas, it is something that we are so impressed with. But that is for tourism. But coming to adopting climate change mitigations, CWMAC has helped its member 6 WMAs enter into contract with Carbon Tanzania for carbon credit business that brings about 4.5 million USD per year. So this not only covers for operation cost of these WMAs, but also they provide to the community for community development projects, and so improving livelihood in communities. And CWMAC, with support from Maliasili, has now endorsed its own its 5 years strategic plan, of which we are focusing of taking a number from 3 which are self-funded WMAs. We are focusing on to 15 areas to be self-funded by the year 2028. So, and this will be manageable due to different areas that CWMAC is working on. So the first area is policy reforms. We are working with different partners and the government to make sure that policies that are governing these WMAs are conducive, and they provide a very friendly platform for investment, a very friendly platform for community to have rights to manage their resources and benefiting from them. And the part that we are working through this strategic plan is improving governance and strengthening operations of these wildlife management areas by building capacity of leaders and managers of these wildlife management areas. Before the year 2023, we only had 5 WMAs with professional managers and accountants who are running and operationalizing the WMA offices. But now we have a number of 12 WMAs with recruited and professional accountants. So this means WMAs now are business. WMAs now are, the institutions that can run themselves by themselves in terms of managerial and leadership, without even directly depending on donors, depending on landscape partners, or depending on whoever. But now they're depending on themselves in terms of managing these wildlife. And the most important thing is we have a total of 999 rangers across these wildlife management areas.
Thank you so much.
Are not only rangers for us, they are champions of conservation.
I'm so terribly sorry to interrupt you, Kamuna. We love the work that you're doing. And once again, CWMAC is proving that when people have rights to their land and to their resources, we can see tremendous conservation, climate, and livelihood benefits. I'm so sorry to cut you short because of time, but if you're interested in learning more about CWMAC's work, please visit their website, write directly to them, and ask questions in the chat. And I'm sure Kamuna and his team will let you know more about what they do. We are now going to head southwest of the continent to Angola. And today we're joined by Antonio, who is the Executive Director of ACADIR, one of the few locally led NGOs in Angola spearheading community conservation efforts. For the past 20 years, ACADIR has been working to succeed against all odds, and it's really impressive what they've been able to achieve. Antonio, how are cooperatives that ACADIR helps people establish, how are they helping these people to access their rights to natural resources? Welcome, Antonio.
Yes, Antonio is here. We are struggling with internet and power. But quickly, if you're hearing me, ACADIR came into after the war in 2000. The refugee, when they came, they started chopping the trees and the hunting. And there is why ACADIR came with methodology of conservation agriculture to help the community, especially in Luenga-Luyana National Park, is where during the wartime where was the base militant. The issues was hunting all wildlife like elephant. Today, I can see that in 4 years, 11 villages increased crop yield by 87%, improving nutrition and increased direct income to their family. And also, ACADIR achieved to work with 22,500 people practice conservation agriculture farming as the now method. You can stay 10 years or 15 years in the same place without chopping the tree or going to hunting. And also 10 million hectares of 80% of Angola cultivated by CA community, where ACADIR is working with community. Today, In these 4 years, we have registered 20 cooperative, conservation cooperative, fishery, and forest. And also increasing the number of catching fish from 3 kilogram to 12 kilogram. And with community mobilization and the sensitization in the Lwenga-Luyana National Park, the number of elephants, before we had like 2,000 or 3,000, but today we are having 6,000 elephants in the park. And all community are busy to do conservation agriculture, than going to chopping trees and the hunting have reduced. Over to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Antonio. And as we said, you have been succeeding against all odds, including internet, power, infrastructure issues. And I think what really stands out for me about your work is how conservation can really help communities rebuild themselves, can really help them have access to resources and ways to gain benefits as well. Next.
Yeah, so we have one more speaker for the day, and she is a phenomenal speaker. You want to stick around for this. We know we only have 3 more minutes, so we're going to ask you if you would just have 2 more minutes after the bottom of the hour to give Morangels Visa to speak a little bit more about her work and for us to just wrap everything up. So I have already given it away. We are going to be speaking to Dr. Morangels Visa in Zimbabwe. If you have not heard her TED Talk by now, please go and search for her and find it. It is a very, very important TED Talk about how community conservation can save wildlife, which is very much of the work that is being done here and very much centered around the work that she and her team have been doing. So Morangels, going to jump straight into it. You as WCA are a young organization, and you started with a focus on reducing human-wildlife conflict and to measure your impact there. And you are seeing this impact, this reduction in human-lion conflict. More than half of these incidents are actually reduced. So my question is, what do communities say about this change? And how do you plan to extend this knowledge and success in minimizing conflict with other species? We know you're the lion person, but we know that there are other things afoot, so we want to hear about them.
Thank you, Reson and Wanjiku, for the introduction. So yeah, one of the motivations for founding our organization was because of the increase in human-wildlife conflict, which is one of the major threats that is facing wildlife today in Zimbabwe. So between 2016 and 2021, the conflict has risen by more than 300%. So it's one of the reasons why WCA was formed to address this challenge, which is also a double-edged sword because it affects both people and wildlife negatively. So no one wins when conflict happens. And for us, the impact that we are seeing on the ground is what is motivating us and what is inspiring us to keep going every day and against all odds and against all the other challenges that we continue to face. And just hearing that from the communities on the ground on how our work has impacted their lives is something that is so special for us. So we started working in one of the districts called Nyami district in Zimbabwe around 2021, and it was barely a year after a young man was killed. He was attacked and killed by 2 lions in Nyami. He was on a motorbike and traveling from his home in the community to a safari area nearby, and he was attacked and killed. And so us coming into the community and trying to help deal with the lion conflict at that point was something that the community did not welcome, because they were very angry about the lions. They had negative attitudes because understandably they were losing their lives, their livelihoods to lions and other wildlife species. So initially they did not want to hear anything about lions. They did not want to hear anything about conservation, because for them, they felt that the cost that they were getting from these wildlife species outweighed the benefits that they were getting from the wildlife resources. So they did not want to hear anything about that. And they also did not want to hear anything about any of the mitigation measures that we were trying to discuss with them and to try with them, like the predator-proof mobile bombers. So their perception was that they would attract the lions to the livestock. So the attitudes were very negative. There was little cooperation from the community when we started, but because of the consultation that we continue to do over the years. And in the beginning, we just worked with a few community members that were willing to be guinea pigs. So we managed to distribute some of the mobile bombers to these communities. And within a year, when the other community members started to see the impact of these mobile bombers on protecting livestock, then we started to get more and more community members coming to our office to say they also need to be on the list, on the waiting list for these mobile bombers. And some of them even came to say, okay, we can contribute something towards the cost, because these mobile bombers are a bit expensive. They average about $400, and some were saying we can give you $50 so that we can also get a bomber. And this was only because they could see the impact that the bombers were having in protecting livestock. And at the moment, the mobile bombers have been 100% effective. So none of the household that had bombers lost any livestock over the past 3 years. In the morning, we would come and see the spores of the lions around these mobile bombers, showing that they did come and visit, and then they would attack next door to their neighbor, where there would be maybe a poor crow. So this really showed the communities that these mitigation measures that we were putting in place were very effective. And some of the community members, like there is an old man called Mr. Mudenda. He received a mobile bomber, and he was putting it in his crop field, because they have also a dual purpose. They increase soil fertility because of the manure from the cow dung. So he was also harvesting now like more crops than he did before using this mobile bomber. And when we talked to him like a few months ago, he was saying that he was going to sell one of his beasts to buy another bomber, so that he can also rotate it around his field and increase his crop fields, the yields in his crop fields. So for us, like just seeing this change in the attitudes of the communities towards conservation, and seeing the effort that the communities are putting into putting up these mitigation measures by themselves. So we are seeing now that most of the community members are now herding their cattle. They are now crawling their cattle at night. They are also now strengthening their crows, and this has also resulted in the reduction of the conflict incidences. So all this work has been because the community has been involved and are now driving these conservation efforts, and are now participating in reducing the conflict between humans and wildlife. And because of the success of this project, we started off looking just at lions and other large carnivores, but the community asked us to look at elephants as well, and other species that are causing conflict, like crocodiles, because they realize the impact, and they now want us to also help them with these species that are causing conflict. And so at towards the end of last year, we started working on elephant conflict using chili deterrence. And we have also expanded our projects within Nyami Nyami to other wards in the district, because also the community in those wards asked us to expand because they had seen the impact. So when communities see impact, they want to get involved and they rally behind the conservation efforts. Thank you.
My gosh, more angels. You know your work is working when the community themselves come and say, we need you to do this. We need you to expand. We are giving you money for a bomber. Like your work is speaking for itself in the community, and it really has spoken for itself here. Thank you so very much. And now we have just finished with all of our speakers. We are so, so grateful to everyone. If you would like to put something into the chat, those of you who are here, please put something into the chat, whether it's a question, a comment, one word, just to thank all of our speakers for taking the time to present their impact and their work today. And as you do that, we also want to say that, you know, this work, these impacts, they did not happen they happened as collective efforts. They had a lot of help. They had a lot of backing from various partners, and they will need your help. We have set up a page, maliasili.org/impact-festival. We're going to put the link in the chat. Please go there and see if you can support these partners, because their work is only possible then this impact is only possible if their programs are supported, and if their work as organizations is supported, if their organizations are able to grow, to retain the talent that they all have, to be able to go out and do the work, you know, whether it's in forests or with now elephants and lions, or whether it is, you know, at the seascapes in these various places, working on governance, working on rights. All of this work needs all of us. It does. Yeah. So thank you so much for staying on for the few extra minutes, and thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for all who have made this event possible as well. We are really, really grateful for all your support. If you can unmute panelists and give everybody a very large hand clap, we're so grateful. And thank you for attending the first Impact Festival. There will be many.
Make sure you join the next song. We have a song with Feliciana. Do not miss that. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So much.
Thank you,